You're listening to the Wool Academy podcast. This is episode number 29. Hello and welcome. My name is Elisabeth van Delden, and once a week we talk to an industry expert from the wool industry supply chain from farm to fashion and beyond, delivering strategies and insights to be successful in wool and showcasing those beautiful stories wool has to tell. Hi there, it's so good of you to join me again today on the Wool Academy podcast, and I just want to give a brief introduction to today's guest. Today I'm talking to Robert Ryan from Shoot Bale in Australia, and what I think is interesting to hear in this episode is that you will learn more about how the Australian wool industry is set up and organized, because Robert explains that very well, and also just hearing about different aspects of agriculture, and you kind of get the gist of how important agriculture is in Australia and how it is then also showcased and supported through different channels in the industry. So I hope you enjoy this interview, which I took live during the IWTO Congress in person. So that was very special to be able to sitting next to my interview partner in one room as opposed to doing it on Skype. And I just hope you enjoy this episode. Today I am here with Robert Ryan from Shoot Bale in Australia, and we're again live at the IWTO Congress in Harrogate, and it's so great to have you, Robert. Thank you for your time.
Lisa, thank you for talking to me.
And yeah, I wanted to invite you because you are a person like many other in the industry who wear a lot of different hats, and I would like to inquisite you about the different hats that you wear. So let's talk first about the business that you own, about Shoot Bale.
Well, that's the actual thing that pays the way, and I suppose I'm very fortunate because I have a very good team of staff and a very good business. And basically our business of Shoot Bale is a wool broking business, so we sell wool is our core business, and then we sell livestock and property, and we lend money to wool producers and livestock producers. It's a business that's been around for a very long time. It was formed in 1906, and it's had a series of owners, and we bought this business in 1994, and so here we are, 20 odd years later. We have a very, very good business that deals with all sorts of industry matters and people who produce wool and livestock and cropping and all of those things that they do in their normal day-to-day business. So it's very, very good.
And you're based in Sydney?
Yes, I live in Sydney. Our head office is in Sydney, but we have branches all throughout New South Wales and Queensland, and we principally concentrate in those two states in Australia, and we operate from, as I say, selling wool, selling livestock, selling residential real estate, and rural properties as well.
So you support the farmers and give them advice on how to.
Yeah, we're available to give them advice and support them financially if they need it, and assist them with their ram selection and their sheep classing and their overall desires, whatever they may be.
Okay, great. And the official name is Shoot Bale, Badgery, and Lumbee.
Yes.
What does that? How does that name
it's
come
interesting.
together?
Well, it's obviously a series of surnames of different people in the early 1900s that came together, and obviously it was Shoot Bale, and then the Badgery came along, and then Lumbee came along. So it's been a series of people who've joined that business over time. So it was personalities from the early 1900s that started it.
And you kept them on board?
Yeah, very important.
Okay, great. So there's, as you said, lots of history in the wool industry. Yeah. And you mentioned the different income streams, and what kind of farmer is typically your customer? Or do you have different customers?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's several types. I mean, you have a dedicated wool producer, or you have a dedicated cattle, or sometimes sheep and cattle they go together. But most of we have some mixed farmers who are producing crops as well. But generally they are dedicated wool producers that specialise in most cases in merino wool. There is some crossbred wool production, but merino wool for apparel use. and principally they shear once a year, or some of them now are shearing twice a year, and they generally prepare with our assistance, if required, their wool clip for bringing to the market. And the market in Sydney is every week. We have an auction, and we store wool in various regional centres, and those samples are then brought to Sydney for display and inspection by the buyers.
And you then have an auction, and it's an open cry.
Yes,
auction?
It's an open cry auction, and it's very fast. We do about 4 or 5 lots a minute.
Wow.
So we're going very quickly because we were dealing with professional buyers, and they know what they want to buy, and we know what it's worth. So we have to make sure that they pay the correct price, and that our clients receive the benefit and the advantage of getting the best price possible on the day.
Mm-hmm. So you're covering the supply chain from farm to the export.
Yeah, that's right, to the port, and then we provide various services for the buyers. If he wants to blend some lots together, we do that. If he wants to hold it for a period of time, or he wants to have it put onto the ship very soon after the sale, we arrange all of those things. Yeah.
Okay. And then, you said we already said you have different hats on. So you're also the chairman of the Federation of Australian Wool Growers Organisation. And tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Role.
Well, the Federation of Australian Wool Organisations is a collaboration of all of the different factions within the wool industry in Australia. It's the sole branch of the IWTO, the International Wool Textile Organisation, so it's the Australian branch, and it has a series of members, AWI, AWTA, the testing house. We have Australian Wool Exchange, then we have the National Council of Wool Selling Brokers, we have the Australian Council of Wool Exporters, and we have Wool Growers Australia, and we have other sub-members who are part of the industry, and they may well be the Department of Agriculture, or they may well be a particular faction that isn't necessarily able to subscribe to a full membership, but they might come in as associate members or participants in the process. So it's about a collaboration of like-minded people. We may not all agree, but we are like-minded people about wool industry matters that come together for the betterment of the wool industry. So we talk about, are we prepared for exotic animal disease in the event we get one and we had an outbreak, or how are we going to deal with a particular issue of disseminating information, or are we going to run the conference as we did last year in Sydney on behalf of IWTO. So there's a whole lot of things that need to be dealt with from a national perspective from time to time, and we do that through regular communications. We have a website. We have obviously an executive that meet 4 or 5 times a year. We have an executive officer who works part-time for us to pull things together. And then we have input from a technical perspective that goes on to the technical presentations at IWTO, etc. Yeah.
And so, you explained how you work together on national level, and you're also very much involved with the work on international level. And why do you feel it's important to work together as an industry?
Well, I mean, I have the belief that if you're in a particular industry, and I'm in the wool industry, then I think you have to be involved. And I think to be involved means that you get down and contribute, and you support the industry, and you attend conferences, and you participate in all of the things that are important to different people within the industry. And I think it's very much, you're in a much better position if you can come from a united position or a collaborative position to the government of the day, for example, and you can talk about the industry, how this will impact on it if they go in that direction, or how would we recommend to them about something, as I said before, exotic animal disease is one thing. I mean, how do we deal with that, and how do we make sure that the industry is not disadvantaged, but it's actually prepared in the event, and we hope we don't get it, but in the event something terrible occurs, how are we going to deal with it? And that's really what this group's about.
Great. And describe to me a little bit what is so special about the Australian wool industry.
Well, without being too cocky, I think we are we're very passionate. We're very lucky of the type of sheep we have because we do have the largest number of merino sheep, and we do produce some of the most, if not the best, wool in the world for apparel. And it is very, very unique that one country has that dominant position. It's not without its problems because we have various things that impact on us. For example, drought or low commodity markets. Lots of things that occur in Australia that challenge the producers and the organisations and the industry as a whole. But I think as I say, we need to be making sure that we're coming together as a group of like-minded people in the wool industry. Now, I like actually wool because you can actually touch it and feel it, and if you know a lot about it, then it's really an exciting fibre, an exciting industry to be in. But as I said before, life is what you make it, and you get out of life what you put into it, I think, and we particularly enjoy that.
And tell me a little bit about how's the Australian wool industry structured?
Okay.
Between
well, we have. I mean, obviously, there's wool growers, wool producers, and then there is wool brokers as the agent for the producer. Collaborate, bring the wool to auction, attract the buyers. The buyers come to the market. We have various rule providers, and rules for pertaining to auction are governed by the Australian Wool Exchange, and the Australian Wool Exchange has and provides advice to wool classes throughout Australia through a registration program and an update on clip preparation, and provides feedback to those classes as well as information that comes from the brokers back to the wool classer and to the producer. Aside from that, we have various logistics organisations that are involved that may do the container packing or the dumping prior to containerisation, and ultimately send the containers off to mills overseas. About 90% of our wool clip is generally exported. We process some wool in Australia, so the wool processors are part of our collaboration. But there's a lot less than there used to be. But most of 70% of our wool is exported to countries like China, and followed by India and Italy and the Czech Republic and various other ones. But I think also we have a government or a grower representative body which has funding from two streams. One is, and that organisation is Australian Wool Innovations, AWI, and they are principally funded by wool growers with a levy of 2%. And in addition to that, the taxpayers of Australia provide funds to the AWI for their running of their operation, which is principally about marketing and research. And so they come together with that funds, use it to promote Australian wool, and do good things within the industry, be it research or experiments on various types of animal issues and sheep production, wool production in general. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you have also a large testing.
We have the Australian AWTA, Australian Wool Testing Authority, which is a member-based company, again a not-for-profit like AWI, but it actually is responsible for providing all of the tests under the rules and regulations of IWTO, and those tests form the basis on which the wool is traded, and it is a very unique position where the industry owns that business through its membership and makes sure that the test results that are being provided are accurate, and therefore they follow through that purchase that one mill might buy and to the ultimate product that they produce, and they know exactly what they're getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many different players in the Australian wool industry, and we also talked to other members of, for example, Uruguay, and then the setup is quite different. So it's interesting to hear the different ways of how a country organizes its wool production.
Yeah, now let's go to your third hat. You are is it the president
President, yeah.
of the Royal Agricultural Society of New South Wales?
Yes.
What does that society do?
Well, the Royal Agricultural Society of New South Wales is 195 years old. It'll be 200 years old in 2022. And it was first formed when the colony of New South Wales was first settled. And it came together through people wanting to expand production of food and fibre and agriculture in general. So soon after the settlement of Sydney, like-minded people came together for the betterment of agriculture and started competing as far as displays went. You know, have they got the best fleece of wool, or have they got the best cow or the best sheep, or whatever it might be. So now that switch forward to 195 years later, we have an annual event called the Sydney Royal Easter Show, and it is one of the biggest events in the Southern Hemisphere. And we just concluded our 14-day show a couple of weeks ago, and it's known as the Sydney Royal Easter Show. You know, it comes around Easter time, of course. So we bring together a lot of people through exhibition who talk about excellence in agriculture, and we have, for example, a sheep committee, and it's like a sheep and wool committee, and we have a cattle committee, and then that's broken up into beef and dairy, and then we have horse, and we have poultry, and we have goats, and we have alpacas, and we have general display of all of those things that come from the farm or from agriculture. In addition to that, we have some absolutely magnificent exhibitions about agriculture from various regions within the state of New South Wales, and they come through and collaborate within that region to put a design and a display up there of the things that are produced within that region. And it might be wheat, and it might be barley, it might be various other cereal crops, or it might be fruit and vegetables and wool and all of those things. So they tell a story in their display, and these murals are constructed out of fibre and wool and fruit, and are displayed in a hall which is some many metres long, and then they enter competition. So it's all about competing, and as a result of the competitions, we improve the excellence of the product, or excellence in agriculture, and we've now taken it through. So we have fine food, we have domestic animals, we have all sorts of cheese, wine, dairy, all of those different products that are produced in New South Wales in a competition.
Mm-hmm. And the best sheep will be chosen, and the best...
Yes, best sheep, or the best cow, or the best horse, or whatever. We also have a competition which is about sustainable agriculture through a competition called the President's Medal, and that's basically an enterprise that may produce, for example, this year was an enterprise that produced olive oil. And it's about sustainable agriculture. It's about a good business model. It's about making sure that, the end product has got the depth behind it, and it's got a good financial structure, and environmentally friendly, and all of the correct things. We've had oyster farms in the past. We've had fish farms in the past, and this year was an olive oil producer, and they talk about the virtues of olive oil and the sustainability of it. It's very, very prestigious, and it's a very grand competition to win. I get a lot of support from the government departments to help us, with the research and all of the things that go to making up a credible and competition for people to promote the product. Yeah.
And do you see certain trends coming in agriculture?
I mean, historically, because I'm a sheep and wool person, it's always been about sheep and wool, and now, of course, there's a lot of people who do a lot of other things, and as I say, this one the other day was about olive oil. So we have an olive oil competition now. We have a cheese, or we have fine deli meats, and then we have wine, and all of those things. People can't just produce one bottle of wine. They have to produce a sustainable amount. It has to be a commercial venture that they're into. It's not just sort of, we're going to produce this one jar of pickles. It's you have to be able to produce more than just one of something. yeah.
So you're seeing a trend of more diversification within the agricultural industry in Australia?
Oh, you go back hundreds of years ago, Australia was just about sheep and wool. It's not now. It's about many, many diverse agricultural products. You know, special types of wheat or barley that are grown for food production. It is, yes, you are right. And I suppose the volume of wool is down historically a little bit because people do other things. With their land, they can produce other things, or they're endeavouring to produce other things. So yes, it is, I suppose, a great thing for the diversity, but it's also a bit of a threat for if you're a sole wool producer or a beef cattle producer. Yeah.
And how do you see and how do you attack the issue of getting young people into the wool industry?
Right. Okay. Well, we have. I'm a wool broker, as I mentioned before, so we have an organisation called the National Council of Wool Selling Brokers, and the brokers run a competition called it's sort of like the next generation, the Young Wool Broker Award, and that's awarded after a series of presentations and interviews and research into the individual who's applied for that. That's one way of doing it. But the Royal Agricultural Society, what we do is we have a youth group and we bring those young people, we encourage them to be involved in a standing committee, a sheep committee, for example. And then, and if they're able to commit and able to bring substantial input to the table, then after a period of time we would ask them to join that committee on a formal basis and endeavour to keep our average age down and make sure that we have got a young group of people coming through our organisation, not just as the Royal Agricultural Society, but we do it in the business of wool broking and the business of wool buying. It takes a long time to learn a lot about particular things such as wool from an exporter's point of view or a broker's point of view. So you're generally not going to be 15 when you get that information. You're going to be more likely older. But, I started when I was 18 years of age and in the wool industry, back in the late 60s and ended up, a young auctioneer and selling things in an open cry situation at a very early age. And I think those opportunities still exist there today. I mean, I was the first person to employ a female auctioneer to run an auction, and she's still selling today. So there's lots of things that young people, if they are prepared to commit. I have a young wool classer who's working for us in our rehandle, and he's only 21, and he's got great opportunity, and he will be a great asset to our business and to our industry. And so they are there. But it's a two-way sort of thing, people have to commit.
Yeah. But you're open to giving young people a chance.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, I'm at the other end of the spectrum now. I don't, you never think you get old, but ultimately you get there and you go, well, I think we need, it just happens in a blink and all of a sudden you're old. So you have to, for the sustainability of the business and for the industry, you have to keep bringing and encouraging young people. And if you see here at IWTO, we had probably one of the biggest number of younger people stand up there yesterday and introduce themselves from all facets of the industry, which is very important.
Yeah, it was really encouraging.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Robert, for your time. It was really a pleasure hearing more details about your business and the different organizations that you are the head of. And before we close, what is the best way to find out more about your company?
If people can have a look at our website, which is www.shootbell.com.
Okay.
And Lisa, thank you for interviewing me. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you well with the future with your business.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode with Robert Ryan. When you visit the show notes, you can find out more about all the organizations that were mentioned today. These were Shoot Bell, the Federation of Australian Wool Organizations, and the Royal Agricultural Society. Just go to elisabethvandelden.com/029. Once again, that is elisabethvandelden.com/029. We love that you're listening to this podcast. Make sure you also connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. See you there, and bye for now.